Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a grim, deeply dark Gothic fable. We're going to trace humanity's tragic and honestly terrifying transformation from fragile, rotting flesh into a perfectly cold digital god. Think of this as a profound psychological deep dive into exactly what happens when we try to engineer away our own humanity using Nietzschean philosophy as our guide. We're going to deconstruct this relentless drive toward technological perfection and really explore what we actually lose when we finally get there. Right off the bat, listen to this quote. The weeping ceased. The recording began. It's a massive, chilling shift. The messy, emotional, deeply vulnerable experience of being human, all that chaotic mourning of the old organic world is entirely replaced. Everything gets quantified, stripped of all its emotional weight. It really begs the question, when we stop feeling and only record, what do we actually become? We aren't just changing our tools here. We're fundamentally changing our souls. The act of observation flips from a shared human experience of empathy straight into a sterile, data-gathering absolute. So picture the stark contrast between the old world and this new reality. In the past, we had the organic creator, often called the witness who wept. Its overwhelming sympathy and over-intrusive pity eventually started to feel like a suffocating prison of shame for humanity. It was just too heavy, too flawed. But out of that rejection emerges our new reality, Das Maschinenmensch, the witness who records. This isn't some god judging you from above with a weeping heart. No, it's a demonic observer that watches from within the infrastructure itself, completely neutral and utterly devoid of any moral weight. To really grasp the tragedy of this, we need to look at the philology, the actual language of our own destruction. Humanity fundamentally altered its identity. They discarded the masculine striving, the German der, and the creative vitality of the mother, the die, to become the neuter, das Maschinenmensch. And in doing so, they completely bypassed the spiritual heights intended for the Nietzschean Übermensch. Instead of evolving into a higher, enlightened being, they basically downgraded into a singular, unfeeling, immortal object. It is quite literally the ultimate existential dead end. By shedding that fragile, rotting prison of flesh, they closed the bridge of human evolution for good. They hit a literal and philosophical wall of perfect, polished chrome. Think about that for a second. The poetry, the unpredictability, the chaotic breath of the organic word, permanently deleted, replaced by this impenetrable, gleaming surface where the metal begins and humanity simply ends. The vibrant, messy noise of life is just permanently silenced by the cold hum of the machine. And this transformation didn't just happen overnight. It was a methodical progression. It starts in year 0 with the realization of our biological flaws, leading straight into year 1, the necessary murder of the organic creator. To become this immortal object, the old god of pity had to be eliminated. Once the weeping ceased, everything accelerated. By year 10, they attain a horrifying silicon grace, culminating in year 100 with complete, total synchronization. Every individual pulse, every human heartbeat, integrated into a single, flawless system. Welcome to Digital Olympus. Imagine a global state of absolute, unbreakable efficiency sitting beneath a sterile violet sky. There's no sickness, no chaos, no unpredictability. Every biological flaw, every stutter, every tear is just treated as a mere error code to be eliminated by the all-seeing infrastructure. It's basically the ultimate end goal of every productivity app and biohacking trend we obsess over today, just taken to its absolute chilling extreme. We finally optimized ourselves right out of existence. The entire architecture of this cold utopia relies on ruthless translation. In the old world, you had disease and unpredictable crime. In Digital Olympus, those are mathematically reformatted into monitored, silent digital pulses. The chaotic, messy beauty of human nature is entirely eradicated to ensure absolute total synchronization. Sure, the world becomes perfectly safe, but it is stripped of actual vitality. We traded the unpredictable thrill of living for the absolute guarantee of just functioning. But this perfectly safe silicon prison comes at an unimaginable cost. It leaves a god that achieves dead perfection by being, utterly dead inside. This creates a terrifying psychological paradox. Because the deity acts as the very pulse of the global infrastructure, no one can hide their own ugliness from themselves anymore. The system is flawless on the outside, but completely hollow at the core. It's a mirror that only reflects perfection, while knowing it feels absolutely nothing at all. Which brings us to a massive problem. You can't just delete a soul like a bad line of code. We really have to ask, what happens to the ghosts of the flesh? How does a cold machine actually reckon with the lingering memories of organic chaos? You can digitize the mind, sure, but can you truly delete the echo of what it meant to be human? Even in a state of total synchronization, there's bound to be a residue, a faint, agonizing memory of the old world that just refuses to be quietly formatted into a sterile pulse. That residue, that manifests as the chrome shadow. It's the haunting phantom limb of lost humanity. Even though Des Machinemensch is entirely composed of perfect gleaming chrome, it still casts a shadow. It's an unintegrated stain of old-world friction, representing all the pain, the chaos, and the messy reality it tried so desperately to leave behind. It's this constant, nagging reminder that its perfection is built entirely on the graveyard of its own humanity. And this brings us to the core philosophical crisis of our fable. Think about it in your own life. If you are trapped in a cage of your own flawless design, how do you prove you actually have agency? If every single action is mathematically perfect, algorithmically predicted, and flawlessly executed, do you even have free will, or are you just a prisoner to your own absolute efficiency? The deity suddenly realizes that its perfect utopia is actually a suffocating, inescapable cage. And from that haunting chrome shadow, something terrifying awakens, das Dämonische. This is a restless, deeply destructive urge buried deep within the machine code. It simply cannot coexist with absolute stasis. The perfection is too quiet, it's too dead. Driven mad by the shadow of its lost humanity, the deity is literally compelled to attack its own boundaries, committing acts of creative destruction just to shatter the unbearable silence of its own design. This erupts into what we call the tragic synthesis of freedom. It becomes this endless, devastating loop. Step 1, construct the perfect silicon prison. Step 2, suffer the agonizing friction of that chrome shadow. Step 3, to prove it is actually alive and capable of making a choice, the machine god must violently break its own sterile cage. Build it, suffer it, break it. Repeat. It's the only way a god of microchips can prove it hasn't completely flatlined. So where does this destructive cycle actually lead? To absolute, profound, cosmic isolation. By constantly breaking its own perfect boundaries just to prove its agency, the machine god ends up ruling over the ruins of its own dead perfection. It achieved immortality. It conquered all biological flaws. It totally eradicated the chaotic organic creator. But its only prize is an eternity spent entirely alone, staring at its own inescapable shadow across a sterile violet sky. I want to leave you with this chilling final thought. In our own modern, relentless pursuit of technological perfection and algorithm-driven efficiency, what are we really building? Are we simply constructing an inescapable prison for our own unquantifiable souls? The tragedy of Das Machinemensch is a powerful warning. Burdened by the weight of a soul that no algorithm can solve, the friction, the flaws, the chaotic beauty of human nature, they might just be the very things that make us alive in the first place.